John Wilkes Booth. The Life and Times.
By Harrison D. Jones.
Tell mother, I died for my country. Useless, useless.
John Wilkes Booth. On May the 10th, 1838, a boy was born unto Junius Brutus Booth and Mary Ann Holmes. His name was John.
John was raised with classic literature like Shakespeare.
Despite this, his headmaster described him as not deficient in intelligence, but disinclined to take advantage of the educational opportunities offered him. In other words, he was an idiot.
Following in the footsteps of their father, who had died in 1852, Booth and his brothers Edwin and Junius Brutus Jr. would become well-known actors in mid-19th century America.
After some time, John became a member of the Richmond Theatre, Virginia, stock company.
He, then, became increasingly popular, called the handsomest man in America by reviewers. He stood 5 feet, 8 inches tall, had jet black hair, and was athletic. Well, isn't he hot? Yes, he is hot.
Freaks.
On December the 2nd, 1859, Booth attended the hanging of this man. No, not this man. This man.
John Brown.
Brown was a militant abolitionist and was being executed for leading a raid on the Federal Armory at Harper's Ferry, Virginia, in present-day West Virginia. Booth bought a uniform from a member of the Richmond Grays militia unit, which was heading for Charlestown, and he joined the Grays, who stood guard for Brown's trial. When Brown was hanged, Booth stood at the foot of the scaffold.
Sick freak.
Yes, some say he was. Some say that in that moment he started on his downward spiral towards death.
No, that sounds pretty sweet to me.
On November 6, 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected President of the United States. The following month, Booth wrote a long speech that decried what he saw as Northern abolitionism, and made clear his strong support of the South and the institution of slavery.
Because Maryland shared a border with D.C., Lincoln declared martial law in Maryland, and ordered the imprisonment of pro-secession political leaders at Fort McHenry, to prevent the state's secession, a move that many, including Booth, viewed as unconstitutional.
Although Booth was pro-Confederate, his family, like many Marylanders, was divided between North and South for support.
That means that Booth supported this man.
Oops, wrong picture.
No, that is not it.
Where is it?
I do not know. Uh-oh. We are getting an error message. Crud. Here it is. The future President of the Confederate States of America. Jefferson Davis. Even though Booth supported Davis, he promised his mother that he would not enlist in the Confederate Army. Stupid mama's boy.
As a popular actor in the 1860s, he traveled extensively to perform in both North and South, and as far west as New Orleans. Booth was outspoken in his love for the South, and equally outspoken in his hatred for Lincoln.
In early 1862, Booth was arrested by a provost marshal in St. Louis for making anti-government remarks. That is not nice.
Sorry.
He got out of jail.
Booth
And Lincoln.
Often crossed paths. Lincoln was an avid theater-goer and especially loved Shakespeare.
And what did Booth mainly do?
Act Shakespeare. Congrats. On November 9, 1863, President Lincoln saw Booth playing Raphael in Charles Selby's The Marble Heart at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C.
At one point during the performance, Booth was said to have shaken his finger in Lincoln's direction as he delivered a line of dialogue. Lincoln sat in the same presidential box in which he would later be assassinated.
Finger towards box. Booth often made random trips to odd places at odd times during the war, which made some to believe him to be a spy. Wow. Isn't he just a regular James Bond?
Using his spy-like nature, he plotted to kidnap Lincoln.
He failed. Of course. Ironically, Lincoln went to Booth's home. The war continued on, and then came to an end.
Booth, then, did something that shocked the nation.
He killed the president.
With this gun, he ran, and ran until he was trapped in a barn, and was burned to death.
Tell mother, I died for my country. Useless, useless.
Those were his last words.
Now he is no more.
He died doing what he thought was right. We need to do so also.